Hi, my name is Lorelei. When I was 5 years old, I got very sick. One morning, I woke up and my arm was sore. A few hours later, I could not move my arm and my body got very tired. My mom took me to the hospital. When I got there, I could not move anything. The doctors did not know what was wrong with me, and I got 5 or so shots in my back. A few days later, my body got stronger, but my arm was completely paralyzed. The doctors could not fix my arm. So my dad and I built this robotic arm to help me move. And we want to tell you about this story.
So this is a picture of Lorelei and I. This was a few hours after she was admitted to hospital. Her left arm was at this stage completely paralyzed, and she lost about 70% of her strength. She was starting to struggle to breathe. She couldn't really speak properly. She couldn't sit up or walk around, and the left side of her face started to become paralyzed as well. And so this was actually quite a scary moment. One evening, it was that evening that we overheard the doctors say that they think it could be acute flaccid myelitis. So that evening, we researched all we could about this disease, and we found that it was a very rare illness. Only about 100 or so cases of this had been documented when my daughter got sick. So I remember I was lying in bed with Lorelei in the hospital, and we were looking at other solutions to help with paralyzed limbs, and we found these projects who were building exoskeletons of various types, and they would build these exoskeletons trying to pick up muscle signals, either from the muscles or from the brain, and they would use those signals as controlled signals for the exoskeleton. And then over several months of using these devices, the motor neurons started to repair themselves, and there was some movement. And so we were super excited at this stage. And I remember reaching out to these teams, these projects, but they were all closed. They didn't want to share their information with us. And some of them were commercial, and the commercial solutions would have costed us $100,000. And at that stage, we didn't even have a spare $1,000. So in bed, the two of us, we decided we're going to try to build our own. And we came up with this really simple design. We wanted to 3D print arm braces. We wanted to somehow use an actuator or a pulley mechanism to pull our arm up. And we wanted to embed it with some sensors to try and pick up those arm signals, just like we saw in the research. But we had 101 questions. We really didn't know how to do any of this.
So we recorded many short videos asking for help and advice. We asked 3D printing experts about 3D printing. We asked electronic experts about electronics. For every question we had, we made a video. Within a few weeks, we had experts from all over the world helping us figure things out. And from Mexico, my friend Jose helped us every step of the way by teaching us about electronics and 3D printing.
And this is when something really exciting started to happen. We started to really enjoy the process. So instead of coming home and doing homework, we threw Lorelei's bag to the side and we worked on this project instead.
This is me and my dad and my little brother learning about electronics.
I can't see. I can't see.
Look at these numbers here. Where's the number 9?
So we all used to get involved. This was us. So Lorelei's, at this stage, she'd regained about 50% of her strength in her body. Her left arm was still paralyzed. And we were learning how to wire an Arduino. This was our first prototype. We built it out of toy bricks and Velcro straps.
This one really hurt my arm.
Yeah.
This was really pinchy.
Yeah, this one really pinched her arm. But then we refined it. We, again, still used toy bricks. But this one was pretty good, right?
This one still pinched my arm, but not as much.
But throughout the whole process, we documented everything we could openly, in the hope that other parents would try and build this for their kids as well, and we would collaborate and work on this together. And so every time we solved a particular problem, we used to print out these instructions. This is some of the examples. And so here, this is, instead of continually printing out 3D prints of our arm, we used to print it out on paper first, and this allowed us to quickly make changes and test things out.
This was a plaster cast of my arm. This was me getting my first 3D print.
But there was one, so this was about 3 months into the illness. We had solved all these little challenges, but one challenge we desperately wanted to solve was to pick up the muscle signal, and we just couldn't get it to work. We managed to get it to work on my arm. So this is a very rough illustration of what my arm signal looks like. So you can clearly see when my arm was relaxed, and when it was active, and when it was relaxed again. And what we did was we would normalize the signal, and we could add a threshold to that signal. So as soon as I pulled my muscle, the threshold of the signal would reach, or the signal would reach the threshold, and it would trigger the actuator, or the exoskeleton to go up and down. And so this worked really well for me and my healthy muscle. And this is an example of what it looked like.
This is my dad playing his arm signal to make
It senses the signal and
the arm model move.
Yeah. So this was a model of the arm that we built. So it worked really well with my muscle. But this is what Lorelei's arm signal looks like. We could barely make out any difference between when she was relaxed and when she was actively trying to pull it. And so if we applied a threshold to this, the actuator would be triggered by maybe a heart beating or maybe a finger twitching. And so this was a pretty big challenge for us. And so we recorded another video. We thought, what if we push the signal through machine learning and we try to recognize the pattern? And so we recorded a video, and it took 2 days, and we had all these different solutions, people coming up with all these different solutions. And this one actually came from a company called Coapt. Instead of using a single muscle sensor, we put as many as we could around Lorelei's arm. And instead of filtering out or normalizing the signal, I trained it using Lorelei's arm. So I got Lorelei to pretend to pull her arm up for 5 seconds, and I recorded that signal and then sent it to the computer and say, okay, if you see this type of signal, you should pick the arm up. And then I held her arm up and I said, okay, try push your arm down. And I recorded that piece of signal, and I told the computer, if you pick up this type of signal, that's when you should push the arm down again, right? And so this is when we had a breakthrough.
I sent signals to my arm with my brain, but my arm could not move. However, the computer picked up those signals and made the arm on the computer move.
So we had this really cool demo here with the virtual arm, and we actually used this for her to practice quite a bit. So this was a bit of a game, but it proved that the solution could work. And then we moved it over to the prototype. What was really cool at this stage, a lot of the other parents started to work on this themselves, and they started to tweak the design, and there were all these other kids and building their own devices. There were even parents trying to build using the same mechanism for leg braces. And because it was all open source, these parents were able to build on this and get other universities and other researchers to help. And so at this stage, we had a working prototype, and it was going pretty well. So this wasn't the end of the story. About a week before Christmas, my wife and I are in the kitchen, we're busy cooking food, and she comes around the corner and she's not wearing her arm brace. And then she says, hey, guess what, guys? Guess what I can do? And she goes ahead and she starts using her arm. And that is the story of how the connected world empowered my daughter. Thank you. Great time. Bye-bye. Thank you.